Hello everyone, this is your friend Shinobi Nexus 2.0 and we are back in new fanfic. What if Naruto changed the entire Shinobi history? Part 3. The room was already filled with ninja from the outpost, many of which belonged to clans of Konoha. A few were watching the door and nodded towards his sensei respectfully. Aside from a few ninja who gave him confused looks, nobody paid Kakashi any notice. Some shinobi were already taking their places at the table in the middle, while others stood behind them as there weren't enough seats for everyone. Kakashi wasn't jealous though, the wooden chairs did not look comfortable at all. Plus, he'd been carried all morning and was filled with restless energy. Sprawled in the middle of the table was a large map of the elemental nations. Kakashi noted that the map cut short at the borders of other nations, allowing for a closer lens at the battle zones. Small flags of various colors represented known outposts, key routes, and allied villages of the different nations: red for the leaf, brown for the stone, yellow for the cloud, green for the sand, and blue for the mist. The sand and mist had few flags as they weren't as active in the war, yet the small splashes of blue flags creeping upwards were a concern. Kakashi's eyes briefly flicked to where he knew the Shinobi bridge lay, noting the lack of brown flag. The head of the table was reserved for key players from Konoha's most prestigious clans. If Kakashi's memory served him right, the leaders of the outpost would be the clan delegates Sarutobi Shigeru, Uchiha Noburo and Hyuga Masato. Delegations from other clans of Konoha would take their place at the sides of the head table. While the heads of all the clans remained in Konoha during times of war, each clan head recommended a delegation in their stead, whose assignment and position were only approved by the third Hokage. The other third of the table seated the prominent ninja that didn't belong to a clan. At their head was the most prestigious among them, today that being his sensei. Already knowing the full story, Kakashi turned his attention to the room and watched the gathered ninja carefully. He was only a soldier during the Third War and was woefully ignorant of the alliances at play. This was a chance to pick up some intel on the relationships at the outpost. One would think that with a war, they'd all be on the same side. Alas, Kakashi had to play the political game and knew that underneath the main goal, the clans always vied for more visibility and prestige. His eyes immediately found an Uchiha and Hyuga conversing with one another in a corner. And not just any Uchiha and Hyuga, they were the clan delegates and led the special operations and tracking teams respectively. That's odd, Kakashi thought with intrigue. Those clans had a rivalry, both wielding eye-related bloodlines and were always trying to prove their eyes superior to the other. Yet here they were, having a chat and seemingly quite familiar with one another. Despite being from the same clan, other than Genji, the clan representatives weren't engaging with their fellow clansmen. In fact, the non-representatives seemed more open to mingling with the other clan and no clan ninja. Kakashi knew that this occurred to facilitate information gathering, but also that their lower clan status gave them more freedom to talk to whoever they wanted to without political ramifications. It was with this thought that someone came running into the room, a sheepish smile on his face. Sorry, I was answering nature's call when you sounded the urgent meeting. It took a while for Issa-san to find me. Too much information, Tatsuki-san. A member of the Sarutobi clan laughed as others joined in with fond chuckles of their own. It was clear that everyone was used to the man's unique brand of honesty. Kakashi was similarly familiar with the man's good-humored nature, having been on a few missions with him. Despite hailing from no clan, he was a solid ninja who was friendly with everyone. He only ever achieved the rank of Special Jonin for his sensory abilities, yet he was respected by all. In fact, Tatsuki played a vital role in some of the assassination and information-gathering missions Kakashi had completed over the years. At the time, darkness was Kakashi's companion and he didn't appreciate the garrulous and easygoing nature of the man. Just sit down, Hyuga Masato grimaced at the lack of professionalism as he took his own seat at the head of the table. Killjoy, one of the ninja next to Kakashi muttered, and Kakashi had to agree. Hyuga by nature tended to be serious all the time. Before we get started, let me sum up the situation to make sure everyone is up to speed. Shigeru started with a booming voice once the shuffling and chatter had stopped now that everyone was present. Once he made sure he had everyone's attention, he officially started the meeting. 4 high-ranked enemy ninja infiltrated our lines. We believe their intent was to hit our support teams. They wanted to recover from their losses after facing the wreckage while we recover ourselves. This way, they can ensure they don't lose ground to us as they send backup and more supplies. Luckily, Minato-san stopped them. And now, well, now we have a chance to hit back, and hit back hard. You say that, but even if we decide to push, they'll wait for us at the open fields where they'll have the terrain advantage. Hyuga Masato was the first to comment, voice laced with skepticism. It's why we have commanded my tracking units never to pursue beyond the plains. I agree. Why? They'll play the defensive game, Aburame Yuma added in his 2 cents. Here we go, Kakashi sighed internally as a handful of ninja started to speak all at once. After letting them squabble for a few seconds, Shigeru moved to quiet the room, but the sound of a fist slamming into the table shocked the ninja into silence before he could get a word in. That won't ever change, Uchiha Noburo spoke forcefully once all eyes were on him. I've been working with the Special Operation Forces on coming up with strategies to bypass their defenses should it ever come to this moment. Shikaku-san has been working on this matter as well. It's what we've been building up to. We should go for it. Quickly concealing a grimace, Shigeru added, we won't get another chance like this anytime soon. He was clearly displeased with Noburo's actions. Shigeru was easy to read, a weakness in their current setting. Noburo wants to take control of the room from Shigeru, Kakashi noted. Even after Shigeru's words, many of the ninja standing in the back continued to look at Noburo, waiting for his opinion. Noburo clearly noticed as well, the telltale sign of a barely concealed smirk on his lips before he addressed the room again. I believe that my teams are ready to shift the balance in our favor. Shikaku-san, where do you stand on the matter? Smart, Kakashi conceded. By addressing Shikaku-san directly, any person speaking up instead of the man would be deemed rude. This way, neither Shigeru nor Gaku, who seemed to be gearing up to regain control, could interject. We've been practicing coordinated attacks for exactly this day, Shikaku nodded. He showed no outward emotion to the political interplay. With Minato-san here, our tactics have an even higher chance of working. Our tactics will allow us to break apart the defensive walls of Iwa and hold enemy ninja in areas that will make their forces hesitant to use large-scale offensive earth ninjutsu. However, our main issue is that they can always recuperate or send backup to a down defense with their large numbers. There is where Minato-san's high mobility will come in handy. If you can instantly teleport units to where we disrupt enemy formations or even impede the backup, we can strike before they can get support. I'll need you to brief me of your combined attacks so I'm better prepared, but that's doable. Minato nodded easily, as if teleporting large number of ninja across a battlefield was as simple as strolling through a park on a sunny day. I think you're forgetting the Iron Stone Guardian, Go Ogata, Akamaiki Choza stated with a frown. Kakashi noticed a few other ninja scowl at the name. Does this guy ever provide useful counter-arguments and advice, or does he just shoot down everyone's opinions? Kakashi found the man annoying and was grateful he wasn't deployed to his tracking team. Would you be able to take him out quickly instead, Minato-san? One of the younger ninja standing in the back asked hopefully. You idiot, that would only stall Minato-san and play right into their hands. Noburo glared at the ninja, making him shrink back. Even without the Sharingan, the Uchiha glare is to be feared, Kakashi joked sardonically as he saw the ninja being consoled with a reassuring pat from him teammate. The ninja probably won't speak up again in a meeting for a while. Unfortunately, Noburo-san is correct, Minato sighed, I know I can defeat him, but it would take time as his jutsu nullifies the Rasengan. Kakashi detected the slight annoyance in his tone. He knew that with the addition of elemental nature, Go wouldn't have stood a chance. As it was, the Rasengan wouldn't be able to cause internal damage against Go. It would become a game of attrition, one that would delay Minato. A small lull in the conversation, Shigeru is going to jump at the chance to regain control, Kakashi predicted. Right on cue, we need to determine who best to pit against Go, Shigeru summarized. Someone who we can afford to have delayed while our key units do their job. It can't be Noburo's units or Inoshika Cho as they'll be working to break the defenses. I need to command the rest of the units along with Gaku-san. Therefore, I believe Yuma-san, alongside a team, is our best option. Yuma-san, I mean no disrespect, but can your jutsu keep up with Go's speed? Choza asked with concern. Yes, Yuma nodded, but only for a while. I can do it, Kakashi knew that this is where he could make a difference. He saw everyone turn to him, some in surprise that he was there, others in annoyance clearly thinking he was about to waste their time. Undeterred, Kakashi continued, I have a jutsu that will be effective against Go, but it's not 100% complete. If his Chidori worked against Kakazu, it was sure to work against Go. Nothing against Go, but Kakazu was on another, albeit very creepy, level. Then what's the point, Kakashi-kun? There's no time for you to learn it by tomorrow anyway. Noburo dismissed him with a casual wave of a hand. Kakashi knew he referred to him by the suffix to point out his young age and add more weight to his dismissal. How can it be effective if it's not complete, Kakashi? Shikaku asked instead, curious at the wording Kakashi used, complete instead of master. Unlike Noburu, he knew that Kakashi wouldn't make a suggestion if he didn't think it would work. He also didn't use the kun suffix to indicate to the room that he was taking the young ninja seriously. Since he couldn't use san or sama in Kakashi's case, avoiding the youthful suffix was the next best thing. It's a highly concentrated lightning blade with penetrative power and can tear through most earth jutsu. But it requires high speed to be effectively utilized. While I can reach that speed, I get tunnel vision when using it and can't see counterattacks, making me vulnerable, Kakashi explained nonchalantly. Minato was surprised at the revelation, given that mini Kakashi hadn't relied on his sensei to create the jutsu. The first time his sensei saw Chidori was during the Canopy Bridge mission. I don't remember encountering such a jutsu fighting against the cloud, Inoichi remarked thoughtfully, rubbing his chin in contemplation. It appeared that only his sensei and Shikaku caught on to the fact that he had created it. That's because I created it, Kakashi shrugged to bring the rest up to speed. From his peripheral vision, Kakashi could see the ninja in the back shake their heads or scoff lightly. Interestingly enough, Kakashi noticed the clan representatives gauging him with calculating glimmers. Even Noburo, who had initially dismissed him. Minato-san, Shigeru asked for his sensei's opinion. I'm right here, Kakashi thought with annoyance. It was a bit demeaning to have them refer to Minato instead of asking him for more information directly. Kakashi has an affinity for nature manipulation. Minato stared the clan representatives in the eye, conveying his trust in Kakashi and daring anyone to disagree. If he gets tunnel vision, I can protect him from any counters. For Minato, it clearly wasn't a question of whether Kakashi can or cannot, rather, a question of how best to support him in landing the jutsu. The display of faith meant a lot. The earlier we can eliminate Go, the more that plays in our favor, Shikaku replied, folding his hands on top of the table and resting his chin on top. Don't forget we still have to deal with Kohaku and Hiroto. Their explosive ninjutsu will be annoying. We have fire on our side so it's manageable, but Yuma-san's insects will be a life savior to detect any hidden traps and drain them of chakra. If Kakashi can deal with Go, that should be our plan A. Keyword, if. Hyuga Masato remained skeptical and Kakashi could swear he heard people sigh in their heads. Even should the jutsu prove effective, how would he manage to land a hit? He's just. If Minato-san thinks he can do it, isn't he the best judge as his sensei? Tatsuki countered loudly, which everyone appeared to be grateful for. The Hyuga seemed to want to throttle Tatsuki, who conversely didn't even bother to look at him. Hitaki was able to stall Hayashi Haruki for around 20 minutes until Minato came to finish him off. Yaku leaned back in his chair, conveying his lack of concern. Damn him, Kakashi thought as he saw the mood of some shift with the mention of his clan's name. Kakashi wasn't associated with anything. Hitaki was associated with his father. I need to distract their focus, and quickly. The only difficulty will be where to hide in an open field to catch him unawares, Kakashi said. He further wanted to show that he wasn't taking the task lightly. If Minato-sensei keeps him busy, I can create a stone wall as a defensive ruse and strike him after Minato-sensei leads him towards it. My skills are focused on ninjutsu and stealth. I can do this. There was a moment of silence as the ninja contemplated the information presented. After a beat, Shikaku spoke up, I believe this is the best course of action. What say you, Shigeru-san? Noburo-san? If Yuma-san and his team are available to help navigate the explosives, the more of our ninja survive. I agree with this plan, Shigeru nodded. As long as you defeat him quickly so that Minato-san can join our forces in breaking down their defense, do whatever you want, Noburo shrugged. We'll take him down, then I'll send Kakashi back to the transfer team and join you, Minato affirmed. At this, Inuzuka Genji gave Kakashi a nod. He would be fine without him until he finished this task. Great. Then let's discuss the remainder of the battle. Shikaku closed the topic and moved on to provide more detail on how to neutralize Iwa's terrain advantage. As everyone shifted their attention accordingly, Kakashi felt Tsunade's eyes on him, and he met her gaze to find himself on the receiving end of a minuscule glare. Clearly, she thought that taking on another strong Iwa ninja wasn't in line with his promise to remain safe. In hindsight, Kakashi found it weird that Tsunade hadn't contributed to the discussion at all. Did her trauma also impact her ability to make life-death decisions for her fellow comrades? The thought made Kakashi's heart ache once more. All his life, he knew Tsunade to be a force of nature. Of course, he knew of her struggles, but he wasn't witness to them. It hurt to see her light diminished. Although it wasn't common for his younger persona, Kakashi smiled, his eyes curving into the crescents familiar to his students. I'll be fine. Tsunade glared more harshly, a warning that he better stay safe, then shifted her attention back to the discussion. Everyone was focused on Shikaku and Noburo, so the moment wasn't noticed by those in the room. The strategy meeting continued and stretched into the late afternoon, but the decision was made. Konoha was going on the offensive the day after tomorrow, and they had a plan. There was another debate as to whether to attack tomorrow or the day after. Some wanted to attack as swiftly as possible, while others cautioned that more time to rest and prepare would serve their forces well. I lost count of the number of debates. The clan representatives can't agree on anything, Kakashi complained internally, resisting the urge to shift from leg to leg during the last hour. Fortunately, both Shigeru and Noburo, who were clearly leading the two political sides of the outpost, agreed for once. Therefore, the plan was set to leave tomorrow evening and engage the Iowa front outpost the next day. Hyuga Masato was frustrated as per usual, but didn't push further after the other ninja folded. Right after the meeting was dismissed, Shigeru left to summon one of his contracted monkeys to update the third. Despite many messenger birds, urgent information would be conveyed via summons, whereby the third would call upon the Sarutobi monkeys of his clansmen stationed at key outposts twice a day. If the third had any comments, they would adjust accordingly in the morning. Now it was the captain's jobs to inform their respective units. As the ninja filed out, eager to get something to eat and rest before the day after tomorrow, Kakashi waited for his sensei, who was taking his time stretching. I'm never sure what's worse, standing for an entire meeting or sitting down, Minato joked, his hands interlaced and stretched out in front of him. My leg would have preferred I sit, Kakashi replied. Although healed, his leg cramped up a bit near the end of the meeting. Is it hurting you? Minato asked with worry. Relax, sensei, it's fine, Kakashi rolled his eyes. You need to rest, Minato sighed as they made their way out of the room, but first, I need to see this jutsu in action. Better to know what to expect. There's a training room in the lower floor. I can only manage 3 uses of the jutsu a day, Kakashi informed him. While Sasuke could only manage 2 at the age of 12, Kakashi had larger reserves as a child. Kakashi couldn't help but curse his lax training after his sensei's death once more. I'm also slightly low on chakra after the fight with Haruki. I can explain it to you in detail though. I created it while trying to add nature to the Rasengan, so it should be easy for you to imagine. While that's he told his sense, Kakashi did in fact need to test the Chidori as he hadn't tried it since traveling to the past. With his chakra control problems and physique change, he had focused on other matters. Yet, now he needed to test it out and adjust to his current chakra mix. If his sensei saw him struggling with control, he'd assume Kakashi hadn't mastered it yet and would pull him out of the operation. My best course of action was to prepare in secret, he thought. Why didn't you tell me that you created a jutsu? We talked about how I created the Rasengan just the other day. Minato titled his head in confusion. It's not complete, I wanted to keep it a surprise for a spar. Kakashi crossed his arms and lifted them behind his neck to rest his head inside the crook with a sigh. I was excited to use the element of surprise to hopefully beat you for once. The wistful tone was not lost on Minato, who laughed. I won't let you beat me anytime soon, I have a reputation to uphold after all. Maybe when I'm gray and old. Although his sensei was laughing and joking, Kakashi could still detect a hint of worry in his sensei's gaze. First defeating Haruki, then sealing and now Chidori, his sensei was bound to ask questions soon. He really needed to nail the conversation his sensei would force upon him soon. Does this mysterious jutsu have a name, or are we going with highly concentrated lightning blade? Minato asked, dispelling his concerns for another day as his curiosity won out. I call it Flapping Bird's Rasengan-inspired lightning ball, Kakashi teased as they started descending the stairs. Hey now, Minato pretended to be offended. If I had known you'd keep making fun of Ice Pop-inspired Nimbus Jiraiya Twin Whirl Sphere, I would never have shared. Kakashi could tell he was lying. If anything, Minato's eyes thrilled to see his student joke around. It's such a great name that letting it rest would be a disservice to the universe, Kakashi replied with a shrug. I should have known that if you were ever to joke around, you'd have a sarcastic type of humor, Minato replied with a wide smile. Kakashi was tempted to keep up the banter, but knew he had to stop for now. Anyway, I call it Chidori because that's what it sounds like. How fast would you be going? Minato asked for more detail. As fast as I can, so mid-level Jonin, Kakashi replied. Wait a minute, this morning you said that you'd been planning to improve your speed. Did you decide that, so you have a better chance of landing this Chidori on me? Minato asked in amusement. Kakashi didn't, but it did match up with what mini Kakashi would have done. His sensei really knew him well. Well, you are the only high-level ninja I fight against, Kakashi pretended to be peeved. You're my benchmark for what I need to work on. I haven't considered that, Minato tsked, I need to get you different sparring partners. It's not good to train against the same people, it may keep you ignorant of a weakness until you're suddenly faced with it on the battlefield. Anything that will help me improve is welcome, Kakashi easily agreed. That said, I'm not too thrilled about you taking on such a visible role in the next battle, Minato sighed. It defeats the purpose of keeping your battle with Haruki quiet. There is a huge difference, Kakashi dismissed with a shake of his head. I fought him alone, here, you're fighting him and I'm just sneaking in with a supporting attack. Still, it'll bring the spotlight on you as a strong lightning user, which will make you a target, Minato groused. All the more reason to train, Kakashi replied without concern, stuffing his hands in his pockets. Minato shook his head fondly at the reply before changing gears as they arrived at the ground floor. Alright then, I have a few things to finish up, but I got all the information I needed on your jutsu. You still need to meet up with Inuzuka Genji-san, captain of the transfer team, he suggested. Do you know him? Yes, I'll find him now, Kakashi nodded. Can I have my bag please? His sensei had sealed both their bags before they left Outpost 12 so we can carry him. No sooner than he'd asked, his sensei unsealed a scroll and 2 bags popped up. Kakashi quickly grabbed his bag before giving his sensei, who was strapping on his own, a parting wave, thanks. As he approached the tower's exit, he heard the rushed chatter outside. It was clear that they have announced the plans to attack. Finally outside, Kakashi saw Gaku explaining the plan to some fellow ninja. He spotted Inuzuka Genji amongst the crowd and waited for the man to finish so he could introduce himself properly. While he waited, Kakashi could sense that many were excited to deal a major blow to the stone. Some appeared to be nervous, but there was a thrill of barely contained excitement at a chance to turn the tide. It made sense, the war had been raging for 6 years now. Everyone was tired and the majority have lost someone close to them. Others have spent these years on the battlefield, barely seeing their families and living in constant fear of losing more loved ones. This skirmish wouldn't end the war, but it would break Iowa's momentum and hopefully allow Konoha to win the war, sooner rather than later. A chance the Konoha ninja were willing to die for. After a few minutes of idling around, Kakashi saw Genji break from the circle of ninja and walk eastward. He quickly followed suit. Having to shift to a light jog to catch up with the man's longer strides, Kakashi fell into step next to him. Inuzuka-san. Ah, Kakashi-kun, Genji stopped once he noticed the Chunin by his side. Hitaki Kakashi, reporting for duty sir, Kakashi gave the man a light bow. Yes, I know who you are, the man barked in laughter. Inuzuka Genji, but you already knew that. Welcome to the transport team. I read that you did a short stint on the transport team in the land of Waterfall. Yes, Inuzuka-san, it was with Kobayashi-san, Kakashi affirmed. Genji nodded before he started walking again, beckoning him to follow. Kakashi quickly caught up again as they made their way further east. Genji-san is fine. There are so many of my clanmates here, don't want anyone to get confused, he then let out another laugh. Kakashi wasn't sure if the man thought his comment was funny or recalled a fond memory. Anyway, nothing against the land of waterfall units, but the land of grass is a whole different beast, Genji informed him, raising his eyebrows in an exaggerated manner as he leaned in slightly to make sure Kakashi was listening. The scale of the fighting is much larger. Especially with this skirmish, we're going to have to save our comrades left and right. I'll keep up, Genji-san, Kakashi reassured him. The man nodded before writing himself up once more. Your dispatch papers said you worked on the defensive perimeter of the medical backlines so that quick first aid and transport of the injured can happen safely. Genji suddenly took a left, forcing Kakashi to shift directions sharply. Yes sir, and my dog Summons would help look for any survivors after the fight, he added. Specifying his past role brought up faint memories. His last stint with the transport team was before joining Team Minato. With no sensei, and no constant team, he was shuffled from one assignment to the next. It was only after Team Minato that he had some consistency. That said, being on the transport team was one of his favorite assignments as it brought him closer to the action. His younger self saw it as being trusted with harder missions and he tried to absorb as much as he could amid the battlefield. Now though, he knew he'd hate the assignment, standing on the sidelines as others fight puts a bad taste in my mouth. You want to fight, I can see it in your eyes, Genji observed, our job is important. I know some believe that fighting would be more beneficial. If I fight, I can save lives. But there are strategic values in having an evacuation team. Do you know them? Yes, having a transport team allows for the preservation of life, boosts morale when ninja know they have a chance to survive after being injured and allows Konoha to have a sustained fighting force. Also, should we need to retreat, the transport team would be responsible for covering our forces as they fall back. Kakashi cited dutifully. Exactly, Genji nodded empathically, our numbers are lower than Iowa so we can't just throw numbers back at the problem. We need to be more efficient. The sooner our comrades receive treatment, the better chance for quick recovery and prevention of lifelong injuries. It sucks for the Iowa ninja. They know we have this system, and they don't. That makes them question their leader's approach. Don't they just spin it as a weakness of Konoha, that we're too soft? Kakashi recalled that being a perception thrown about by their enemy. When it's your life that isn't being protected, you want your leaders to have a soft spot for you, Genji explained. Sure, Iowa does try to spin a narrative, but those fighting in the frontlines know they're seen as dispensable. Does that make sense? Iowa's approach is about the number of ninja they have, the more the merrier. Konoha's approach is not about how many ninja we have at a given moment, rather, how we manage, sustain and support our forces, Kakashi paraphrased to show his understanding. They said you were smart, Genji clapped loudly once. They made it to a collection of green-colored tents and ninja started throwing casual greetings to Genji. Kakashi was similarly greeted by the smell of cup noodles and grilled chicken. They had arrived at the transport team's zone. Genji called out to two ninja and a kunoichi near the zone entrance, tell everyone we're meeting at our bonfire in 15 minutes. Urgent meeting. You got it boss. One of the ninja saluted him with a smile before he and his peers started to walk around and spread the word. Kakashi took a glance around the camp as he continued following Genji, not having been dismissed yet. Most ninja were dressed lightly to stay cool in the summer heat. Lines ran in between the tents so people could string up their washed clothes to dry. Like the entrance of the camp, ninja here made small fires at the entrance of their tents to prepare quick meals. Just as his nose caught, most trash bags around these fires contained empty noodle cups and dirty wooden skewers. The team appeared to be friendly with one another, as Kakashi could make out low laughter and levity in the conversations around him. The zone was a contrast to the remainder of the outpost Kakashi has seen so far, though he had expected nothing less with Genji as captain. The man was clearly laid back and wouldn't care much for neatness and order. Kakashi knew, without a shadow of a doubt, that if he were to walk into the zone the Uchiha and Hyuga were responsible for, not a single piece of wood would be out of place. Then again, the transport team was set at the outskirts, thus, farther away from somber news. Moreover, as part of the backlines, they registered fewer causalities than most assignments. Despite Kakashi used to having more order, Kakashi preferred this atmosphere to one that was overly strict. It was a reminder that they were people too, not just tools. As long as the chaos didn't border on unsanitary, Kakashi would make do. This brought forth memories of a terrible stint in the land of hot water. His captain at the time cared little for hygiene. Unluckily, meetings were held near the captain's lodgings and the smell of old shoes and sweat would always waft into his nose, even with the mask. "Ah, here we are," Genji announced, rescuing Kakashi from having to relive the memory further. "Banri, Taiki, Katsu, this is Kakashi-kun. He'll be lodging with you and be part of your squad while Akane heals. Make sure he has everything he needs." "Of course, Genji-san," one of them replied dutifully. They were all clumped together so Kakashi had no way of telling them apart during Genji's introduction. A quick glance showed that the three were in their teenage years, his best guess was 15 or 16 years of age. Meeting at the central bonfire in 15, Genji nodded, "If you have any questions, let me know, Kakashi-kun." The second Kakashi nodded, the man rushed away, leaving an awkward pause in his wake. Kakashi found the faces of his deployment squad familiar, part of Konoha's Chunin ranks. They had never made an impression on Kakashi, hence, he had no idea what to expect in terms of their character or skill set. Regardless, "I just hope they're not annoying," was Kakashi's thought as he moved to introduce himself properly. Kakashi found the faces of his deployment squad familiar, part of Konoha's Chunin ranks. They had never made an impression on Kakashi, hence, he had no idea what to expect in terms of their character or skill set. Regardless, "I just hope they're not annoying," was Kakashi's thought as he moved to introduce himself properly. "Is Genji-san always this, animated?" Kakashi asked lightly. That was the right question to ask as it sparked smiles from two of the teen ninjas, though one's scowl barely hid his disdain. "You'll become accustomed to it," the one who replied to Genji laughed, "My name is Fujita Katsu. I'm the squadron leader of our humble team." Katsu gave an exaggerated bow, his wavy black hair animatedly swaying with his movement. As he bowed, Kakashi noticed the bow strapped to his back, marking him as a long-distance fighter. "This here, with the unique haircut, is Hirose Banri," Katsu's eyes twinkled with mischief. "Unique? You mean stylish," Banri retorted, his tension slipping away at the familiar banter. His spiky hair was dyed red at the tips, and he had foregone the standard vest. Instead, he sported a maroon belt filled with smoke bombs and exploding kunai. Kakashi internally bet that Banri had a fire affinity. Katsu completely ignored him and introduced the last member, last but not least, the one, the only, Taira Taiki. "It's nice to meet you, Kakashi-kun," Taiki said, rolling his eyes at his teammate's behavior. With straight light brown hair and light blue eyes, he wielded a long tanto, prepared for close combat. Kakashi noted that the team seemed to have seriously thought about their composition. Taira Taiki appeared to wield his tanto as their short-range fighter. Hirose Banri was clearly the mid-range fighter while Fujita Katsu supported from a long distance. "Not that they'd listen to me easily, but this gives us multiple options," he thought. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Hitaki Kakashi," he introduced himself. It was clear that the teenagers had a strong bond, so Kakashi felt the need to ask, "How long have you been a team?" "Since our sweet and innocent genin days," Katsu answered him with eyes twinkling in remembrance of his early ninja days. "Akane joined the team a year ago. She's also a kid, only 13. But she got injured recently." "How old are you anyway?" "I'm 11, Kakashi replied, wondering what role Akane filled. "You seem to have a balanced team suited for various distances. Where did Akane-san fit in your formation?" "You noticed that already," Taiki smiled softly, "your reputation of genius seems right." At that comment, Banri snorted, clearly unimpressed. Katsu gave him an annoyed look while Taiki ignored their teammate and answered Kakashi's question. "Akane-chan is a medic, actually. She generally administers emergency aid to those we rescue before we help secure them for transfer back to camp. I know you're not a healer, but don't worry, There are a lot of medical ninja that we protect in the backline, so anyone can jump in. What's your fighting style? I'm a close to mid-range fighter. I specialize in lightning and earth ninjutsu and wield a short tanto, Kakashi replied, adjusting his stance to show them his father's tanto strapped on his back. Great. None of us have an affinity to those elements, Katsu nodded. I can do water ninjutsu while Banri and Taiki are both fire users. Kakashi acknowledged his correct guess with a quiet sense of satisfaction. Sorry about Banri, Katsu sighed, stuffing his hands in his pockets, clearly anxious about his teammates' behavior. Why is he so upset? Kakashi asked, scowling lightly. He suspected it might be due to his heritage as the White Fang's son but was cautious not to jump to conclusions without understanding the full story. Katsu exhaled heavily. Why don't you throw your backpack inside the tent? I'll fill you in on the way to the briefing. Kakashi nodded and quickly ducked inside. He gladly noted that the team respected each other's personal space. The tent was empty down the middle, with 3 sleeping bags laid out at various corners. While 2 corners had some items strewn about, one area was meticulously neat, probably Taiki's living space. Taking the only available open area by the left of the tent flap, Kakashi placed his bag at the corner. Should I take out my sealing supplies? He wondered. He still needed to find a place to practice his Chidori. His sensei did mention the training area in the tower, that was his best bet. But to drown out the sound, he would need to create another seal if the training area didn't already have those installed. It would be bothersome to walk back and forth. Mind made up, Kakashi quickly sealed his gear and walked out to find Katsu waiting for him, arms folded and a light frown on his face. Katsu looked up at the sound of the tent flap opening and started to unravel their story. Banri has always been very ambitious. During our academy days, he would talk out ear off about how he would become a legendary ninja and protect Konoha. He had this vision of blazing into the scene. After 2 months as genin, our sensei died on another mission, and we were shuffled around low-risk assignments. They said we lacked the experience but didn't need a new sensei, so he felt trapped. The commotion around them grew louder as they walked closer to the bonfire pit where the transport team squads were gathering. Kakashi drowned them out and listened intently, understanding more about Banri's frustrations and how they might be misdirected at him. So, he yearns to prove himself at the front lines. Kakashi raised an eyebrow at Katsu, and my assignment reminds him of the opportunities he feels he's missing. Precisely, Katsu replied, his voice flat and unenthusiastic. Adding to that, he blames himself for Akane getting hurt. I swear he's a great guy and is usually the one who keeps us in high spirits. Kakashi could emphasize with that. He was glad that Banri's attitude had nothing to do with his father. While he was over it, he didn't want to have to deal with the backlash of his father's decision again. He already had a lot on his plate and that was one less thing to work around. I was born with this hair, Kakashi huffed, making sure his voice showed no anger so that Katsu knew he wasn't upset. He felt for Katsu, who was clearly trying to fulfill his role as leader and keep the peace. Having been the leader of impromptu squads that squabbled in the past, he knew how annoying it was to deal with. Then again, Katsu didn't have to deal with Naruto and Sasuke or himself and Obito, he had it easy. They made their way over to join the other 2 who had taken a place near the back of the pit. Both were already seated. Banri was resting his elbow on his thigh, his head sitting lazily in his open palm as he watched the other ninja milling about. He appeared to have calmed down. Whatever conversation Taiki had with him clearly worked. Thanks for saving us a seat, Katsu stated as he settled next to Banri, while Kakashi followed, taking a place next to his squad leader. Taiki nodded and gave Banri a quick glance but was ignored. Clearly, Banri was supposed to apologize. Kakashi didn't care one way or another, he had much more important things to worry about than the attitude of a hormonal teenager. Kakashi was already aware of the details of the skirmish and the details pertaining to him. He would meet up with his sensei in the morning and join his squad. Once he played his part, his sensei would teleport him to the backlines. From there, he would make his way to join Katsu and the team, who were stationed third to the right. Therefore, he kept a loose ear to Genji as he began the briefing and scanned the area to see if he recognized any ninja. He noticed many familiar faces, but none he was particularly close to in the future. Very few were surprised by the news. word having already reached them by the time the meeting had started. As with the other ninja Kakashi spotted around the tower, the transport teams were also excited at the opportunity to shift the momentum in Konoha's favor. After a few questions were answered, Genji dismissed them to prepare. Anyone need supplies? Banri was the first of their team to speak after the dismissal. Kakashi saw other squads aligning on their preparation. The gear and supplies line will probably have a long queue if we wait too long, and I want to restock on some exploding tags. Can you get me 2 sealing scrolls? I want to pack some extra arrows, just in case, Katsu replied, to which Banri nodded. Taiki declined, I'm set. I'll go and grab some meat skewers for dinner though. Kakashi assessed the sky's fading light. I'm good as well, I just have a few final touches to handle at the tower. See you at dinner. Then, Katsu bid him farewell. Kakashi offered a brisk 2-fingered salute and leapt away, navigating through the bustling camp to the tower. Upon arrival, Kakashi found the training area manned by 2 middle-aged women, busy with administrative duties due to their injuries. The quiet of the training area was a welcome change from the camp's chaos. Excuse me, Kakashi spoke up once he was at the front of the desk and the women paid him no attention. Is there a training room available? The one with the sling turned to him, a blush rising on her face for not realizing he was there. Yes, training room 6 is free. If you're part of Uchiha Shigeru-sama's team, they're running final drills in training rooms 1 to 4. I'll take room 6, Kakashi said, receiving a nod as his name was recorded. The other women, bandaged and skeptical, questioned, shouldn't you be resting before tomorrow, Hataki? I know my limits. Just a quick session, Kakashi reassured her. Do the training rooms have sound suppression seals? He really didn't want anyone to hear him practicing and alert his sensei. The sound of Chidori was sure to draw unwanted attention. He also suspected that his sensei was with Shigeru so that he could better coordinate with the teams during the battle. They all do, the cooperative woman smiled in reassurance. This your first time here? Yes, it is, Kakashi said. Given that he was never assigned long-term at any outpost, he never had a need to train at camp. He would finalize his missions and go back to Konoha, where he could train at any of the grounds. In fact, most ninja reserved training for when they were back in Konoha so that they were always battle-ready. The training areas at outposts were to run simulations, test combinations and complete jutsu they were close to mastering. Any other training would wait till a ninja was back home. The woman then launched into the facility's usage protocols, including the booking process and the different training room capacities. While he could create Chidori without any hand signs, given his lesser control it was best to take it step by step. Therefore, he ran through the familiar signs, focusing on the flow of his chakra as the Chidori sparked to life. Kakashi miscalculated the amount of physical energy, assuming he needed more to balance with his higher than normal spiritual energy. This caused the lightning to dance erratically around the ground and the center's typically circular core to bulge lightly outwards like small petals. Luckily, his control wasn't too far off that he had to halt the jutsu. Instead, he concentrated on injecting more spiritual energy into the Chidori to stabilize it. Within a few seconds, it stabilized and Kakashi smiled at the feeling of his prized jutsu beating familiarly in his hand once more. He closed his eyes to focus on the energy mix. Once he was sure he would remember the ratio, he ran across the room at full speed, stopping before he damaged the opposite wall. He let the jutsu fizzle out and frowned. He was slightly slower than expected. I must make sure I wait for a proper opening, but I'm ready, he thought. Confident he wouldn't mess up tomorrow, and knowing there wasn't an urgent cue for the room, Kakashi got into a fighting stance and visualized Haruki's movements. Now that he had a few moments, he wanted to replay the fight while it was still fresh in his mind. He needed to make sure he continued to correct his ingrained habits, building ones compatible with his new body instead. As he replayed the fight in his head, he lamented the loss of the Sharingan. Kakashi had a photographic memory even before the Sharingan, but the Sharingan was akin to capturing videos of even the most minuscule of details that people didn't pick up on in the heat of battle. As such, while he never needed the Sharingan to remember theory and his studies, it really helped him run through fights he had with alarming detail. Hopefully, when Obito awakened his Sharingan, he would bother his teammate to provide these details should the need arise. He'll make sure Obito trains that ability when the time came. Regardless, he began fighting the imaginary Haruki. His main issue was lack of speed, but barring that, there were moments where Kakashi realized he could have left Haruki with deeper injuries if he moved a bit closer before attacking. Moreover, there were times where Kakashi reacted too quickly, assuming he was larger and brought up his guard early. An early guard meant a longer time with a blind spot. Luckily for Kakashi, Haruki wasn't the strongest of taijutsu fighters. It was only a few milliseconds, but a ninja-like guy would make those count. Kakashi was still proud to note that he had generally fought without making too many mistakes. Not wanting to push it, Kakashi halted the training and made his way towards the desk to notify them that the room was free again. "That's it. You shouldn't rush your training," the woman with the head wound remarked. "Indeed, but efficiency is key on days like these," Kakashi replied sardonically. It was obvious from her earlier comments that she assumed he didn't know what he was doing. His reply earned him a stifled giggle from Masuyo. "Stay safe tomorrow, Kakashi-kun," she dismissed, cutting off any retort from her colleague. Kakashi appreciated the prompt exit. Once outside, he could see that Banri was right as queues at the various supply stations snaked around the stalls. He figured he had 2 more hours before he'd have to rejoin his squad for dinner. Before then, he wanted a light snack to curb his hunger, having not had anything since breakfast. Mind made up, he headed towards the west side of the camp where he knew he'd find snack vendors but avoid the supply stalls. If his memory served him correctly, the east side of camp, where the transport team was stationed, was busy as it housed the entrance from Konoha's direction. Meanwhile, the supply stalls, administrative ninja and civilian quarters were all located in the south side. This is where the logistics were handled and tended to be the second busiest area after the middle section. Without a way to enter and leave the camp from here, it helped ensure the safety of the civilians and keep them out of the way. The north side was the entrance that led towards the stone village, as such was the most heavily guarded. The patrol, tracker and sensory units tended to remain in that area. Similar to the south side, the west side had no entrance or exit outside the outpost. Conversely, the west side of camp tended to be the quietest. The rest of the ninja force were stationed in this area, but other than a few merchant stalls closer to the center, most of the area was simply tent zones. With no services being provided, and the team leaders staying in rooms at the tower, there was less commotion here. Kakashi found a stall that sold nori wraps and joined the short queue. The wraps won't substitute a meal, but they would be enough to satisfy his hunger. "Go dying on me," Akunoichi expressed her worry to her companion in line. "Worry less about me. If anything, you're that one should be careful. I'll be in the back line healing," the man replied, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "I know the transport team do their job well, but medics are a prime target," she argued, a hint of frustration coloring her tone. "I heard most of Shigeru-sama's squads are coming tomorrow," the man changed the topic to distract her. "I hope whatever plan they concocted gives us the advantage," she replied. "The yellow flash is joining them," the man replied excitedly. "If he's here, tomorrow will be a victory for Konoha. He's strong but not invincible," her tone contradicted her words. "You're also relieved. You can't fool me," he called her out playfully. "I'm being realistic," she huffed in reply. "Tomorrow will be dangerous and we have to stay vigilant. He defeated a squad of 3A ranked Iwa ninja and doesn't even have a scratch on him. I, for one, am greatly relieved he's here," the man countered. "It's inspiring, isn't it? To think he isn't from a famed clan," she said in awe. "You're already remarkable in your own right," he assured her with a smile just as the vendor called them over. "They make it sound so easy," Kakashi felt burdened. As a genius himself, he was no stranger to grand expectations. In Anbu, he could feel the relief of his comrades when he was included on a team. The ninja who completed the most S-ranked missions after the legendary Sannin. The most accomplished assassin in Konoha's Anbu. But he knew, more than anyone, that he wasn't infallible. He couldn't protect Obito and Rin. He also lost a few comrades during his stint in Anbu. Despite having a near-perfect mission record, he considered any loss of life on a mission a failure. The only mission he truly failed was killing Orochimaru after he defected. In hindsight, how the third expected a teenager to stop one of the most ruthless ninja Konoha ever produced was beyond him. However, Minato had it worse. rising in the ranks during times of war. At least for Kakashi, his work was to protect Konoha from the shadows. Yet his sensei was a beacon of hope in times of war. Every time he ventured outside Konoha's gate, all eyes were on him. Although sensei doesn't show it, I'm sure that's a lot of pressure, Kakashi sympathized. Kakashi understood his role, to support his sensei and elevate his team. This resolve steeled him to match his skill to the burden of his duty. The couple in front of him finalized their purchase and walked away, so he shuffled forward. "Good evening, sir," Kakashi greeted. "Good evening, what would you like?" the older man asked genially. Kakashi was surprised by the old age of the man, as it was young men who typically opened stalls at war outposts. "What do your vegetarian nori wraps contain?" Kakashi asked politely. He knew Taiki was getting meat and thought to balance that out with some greens. "I should probably get some for the team as well," Kakashi decided. "Those are one of my specialties," the man got excited. "I include tofu, cucumber, carrot, and bell peppers, along with rice seasoned with my homemade vinegar. It's quite delectable." "I'll take a dozen," Kakashi replied after verifying that he would enjoy the blend. Coming right up. The man was spirited for his age. Although he wasn't one for small talk, his curiosity about the man's presence at the outpost won out. "Aren't you a bit old to have a stall in a war outpost?" he asked politely. "Ah, it's not easy," the man nodded, no offense in his voice. "My son wasn't interested in the family business and became a ninja instead. He is stationed here and I wanted to make sure he and his comrades ate well. We're grateful to our ninja for protecting us and this is the least we can do." "Your son is lucky to have you," Kakashi complimented him as the man finished packing his items and brought them to the front counter. The man's warmness reminded him of Tsuki-san, the owner Ichiraku ramen bar. "Maybe it's an old chef thing," Kakashi mused. "I wish he was here to hear that," the man winked. "He thinks he's being babied with his old man tagging along. That'll be 150 ryo, he said. Not knowing what to say to that, Kakashi simply nodded as he paid for his snack. With nothing more to do for the day, he made a beeline back to his tent. He noted the absence of his squad mates and took the opportunity to set up his sleeping bag. After the green sleeping was quickly prepared, Kakashi grabbed his backpack and placed it on the end of the tent as a makeshift support beam. It wasn't the most comfortable, but Kakashi dealt with much worse on missions. That done, Kakashi took out one of the nori wrap containers, leaned back, and helped himself to some. The muffled sounds of ninja wandering about outside were his only companion as he lazily took small bites from the wrap in his hand. As he sat there nonchalantly, the sound slowly shifted to a low constant din and he fell into a trance. Since waking up in the past, this was the first time Kakashi found himself relaxing, his shoulders, unbeknownst to him, releasing tension and resting comfortably. Once he finished the wrap, Kakashi crossed his arms and used them to rest his head in, leaning back even further, dipping slightly in a more laid-back position, and stretching out his legs. A soft sigh was released into the air as he closed his eyes. A bit longer than an hour later, but for Kakashi what felt like only a few short minutes, he was shaken into attention by a hand grabbing his shoulder and nudging him lightly. Kakashi opened his eyes and met the light blue eyes of Taiki. "Sorry for waking you up, Kakashi-kun," the young man spoke with a gentle lilt, "it's time for dinner." Kakashi blinked rapidly and brought 2 fingers to the bridge of his nose, rubbing away the tendrils of drowsiness brought forth by his impromptu break. "Thanks, be right there." Taiki nodded at that and ducked out of the tent. "He's coming in a sec," Kakashi heard him inform the rest. Kakashi sluggishly sat upright, stretching his arms above his head with a yawn. He grabbed the wraps container and ruffled his hair so that it didn't stick inwards as he listened to a friendly debate break out. "Oi Banri, how many times do I have to tell you to stop feeding the fire so much?" Katsu grumbled. "And how many times do I have to tell you that it cooks faster this way?" Banri replied without a care in the world. "Cooking requires patience, why?" "Because slow cooking meat makes it more tender and juicier," Taiki said stoically. "I didn't know we had a secret abarame on our team." Banri chortled. "Of course you didn't. Why? Because you are clueless," was Katsu's playful contribution. Banri let out a choked noise of protest while Taiki laughed. They really are a close team, he thought. A sigh escaped his lips as he finally pushed himself to stand. Outside the tent, the camp had transformed. The twilight had deepened, casting long shadows between the scattered fires dotting the landscape. The smell of barbecue and sounds of chatter filled the air. The peaceful atmosphere contrasted with tomorrow's events. Kakashi bleakly wondered how many would never enjoy another dinner with their companions. Katsu turned his head when he heard the rustle behind him and greeted Kakashi with a smile. Hurry, before Banri turns all the meat to charcoal. I purchased some vegetarian nori wraps, Kakashi announced, raising his hand to show the container while Banri hit his teammate lightly in the shoulder for his remark. I love nori wraps, thanks. Katsu pushed Banri away and moved to grab the container. You can have my share, Banri offered with a wave as Katsu inspected the wraps. I choose meat over greens any day. Don't mind if I do, Katsu had no complaints, taking out one of the wraps with a smile. Thanks, Kakashi-kun, Taiki said. Katsu loves vegetables and fruits, but the meat line was so long that I didn't have time to buy him some. No thanks needed, Kakashi shrugged as took a seat next to Taiki. I try to have a balanced diet, so the addition of vegetables was necessary. Don't tell me we have another health freak. Banri groaned loudly, throwing his head back. Katsu's voice took an instructing tone as replied, having a balanced diet is not being a health freak, it's standard shinobi practice. Taiki and Banri sing song together, finishing their teammate's sentence. Katsu blushed at the display and dug into his wrap to avoid replying. I stand with Katsu-san. Kakashi felt sorry for his squad leader, hoping to give him one ally in this seemingly long-standing debate amongst the teens. Katsu shot him a grateful look while the other two simply rolled their eyes. The night carried out in similar banner, the squad jumping from one topic to the next. They made sure to include Kakashi by asking him questions. Even Banri engaged him in conversation, well, mostly jokes and quips, but that was the teens' default. The three avoided looking at him when he'd go in for the bite. Part of him was forlorn at the lost chance to string them along in his antics, while another was grateful for their consideration. As the night wore on and the camp's noise dwindled to a murmur, the light-hearted atmosphere gave way to a palpable tension. The proximity of the impending skirmish was unspoken but heavily felt. The sound of crackling of fires became more prominent as they also grew quiet in contemplation. Taiki was the first to break the quiet. I'm going to turn in, he said, pushing himself up with a weariness that seemed more mental than physical. Me too, Katsu echoed, and they both disappeared into the tent. Left alone with Banri, Kakashi was about to follow when Banri's hushed voice stopped him. Wait, he whispered, urgency lacing his tone. Kakashi stuffed his hands in his pockets as he turned around to face the teen. Tomorrow, I'll probably be rushing in constantly to bring in the injured. Make sure you protect Katsu when I do. His taijutsu isn't the best. Kakashi read the underlying fear in Banri's eyes, a fear they all shared on the eve of battle. I will, he promised, understanding the weight of the assurance he was giving. Banri nodded, seemingly comforted by the response, and turned back to the fire lost in thought, his leg bouncing up and down. Leaving Banri to his vigil, Kakashi retreated inside and began preparing for sleeping. He knew Rin would be safe because Tsunade would not send children out to the backlines. Obito should also remain safe on patrol. Minato was strong, Kakashi was sure he would be able to handle himself out there. No, Kakashi wasn't as worried as his squad mates probably were. The promise he gave Banri was not one he carried lightly though. I promised Obito I'd protect Rin and look how that turned out, he thought spitefully. In hindsight, maybe he shouldn't have made that promise. He always said he wouldn't let his comrades die. It was a vow, but also an admonition towards himself. How many times had he wished he could go back in time and drill the importance of teamwork into his younger self's brain? Traveling back in time was an answered prayer, wrapped up in melancholy of future bonds that were lost. Kakashi shook his head to dispel these thoughts. Tomorrow is an important day, Kakashi. This isn't the time to lose yourself, he ordered himself. He may not prefer the transport team assignment, but he would do his assigned task well and protect those around him. It was with that thought that Kakashi finally drifted off. The energy of the next morning was less depressing, as the morning sun gave the Konoha ninja positive vibes. All around Kakashi, ninja were getting dressed, finalizing their packing and saying farewell to those who'd stay at camp. Kakashi ignored the bustle around him and was busy tying bandages around his legs outside of their tent. He could hear his squad squawking inside in their usual banter. There you are. Finally. A familiar voice called out. He raised his head to find Obito running towards him in all his orange glory, a smile plastered on his face. Obito? He asked in confusion. He didn't think Obito knew what squad he was assigned to, let alone how to find him. I heard you're heading out. How? You're still injured. Obito was clearly worked up, hands folded and a grimace on his face, as he stared down at Kakashi, who was still sitting down. Tsunade-sama healed me, Kakashi informed him. HMPH, Obito was unamused as he plopped down on the ground next to him. You sure you're able to fight? Your leg was pretty messed up. He leaned closer into Kakashi's personal space as he asked, challenging him to tell the truth. This was new. Obito rarely showed concern for Kakashi in the past, definitely not enough to scour the camp looking for him to make sure he was in fighting condition. It appeared that Obito having to leave him behind to deal with Haruki had thrown him for a loop. How should I handle this? Kakashi wondered. If it were any other medic, probably not. Tsunade-sama is incredible though and my leg is as good as new, he reassured him, lightly pushing him away from his personal space. His younger self would have bit back at Obito for worrying about him and would perceive it as Obito pointing out his weakness. But as the incident tore down some of the barriers Obito had between them, Kakashi wanted to reciprocate in kind. He didn't want to maintain animosity with the boy, and the sooner they could call a truce, the sooner Kakashi could embrace his own personality instead of keeping up appearances. That's good, Obito let out a sigh of relief and finally relaxed. With nothing more to add, both boys fell silent. Obito fidgeted, clearly not wanting to go but not sure what else to say. Kakashi wanted to cement a change in their relationship so decided to keep the conversation going. How was patrol? He asked. He then looked down and continued tying his bandages, missing the shocked look on Obito's face at the question. Patrol. Yay. Patrol is, okay. It's a bit boring to be honest, Obito spluttered out a reply. I found it boring too, Kakashi agreed, ignoring Obito's fumbling. That's right, you said you did patrol a few times before we became a team, Obito recalled the conversation the team had over the campfire on the way over. Kakashi nodded as he fastened the final knot and began to wear his shoes. Hey, Kakashi-kun, Taiki's head popped out of the tent. When he saw Obito, he gave him a nod, teammates. Yes, this is my teammate, Uchiha Obito. He's on patrol, Kakashi introduced. It's nice to meet you, Obito-kun, Taiki smiled and Obito greeted him back. Anyway, Kakashi-kun, do you have any extra kunai holster tape? Banri didn't notice he was low. I'm telling you, Katsu took my extra ones. Banri exclaimed from the inside. I did not, Katsu argued back, you just forgot to restock, you idiot. Yes, sure thing, Kakashi nodded, ignoring the other two. He grabbed his bag and rifled through it quickly, finding the tape and throwing it casually to Taiki who plucked it from the air easily. Thanks. Taiki smiled again and ducked back inside the tent. You're lucky your teammates are young, mine are all boring adults, Obito groused. My squad's idea of fun is to play Karuta. He enunciated every syllable with incredulity. Kakashi nearly laughed at Obito's predicament. A game involving matching cards based on poetry is probably a form of torture for the non-studious Uchiha. Bringing together memory and physical reflexes is an interesting aspect of the game. Kakashi decided to tease Obito indirectly by discussing the game, making sure to keep his voice neutral. Of course you would, Obito moaned in exaggeration and raised his eyes and hands to the sky as is asking the heavens for help. He certainly didn't remember Obito being this dramatic. Then again, if Kakashi was being honest, all Uchiha were dramatic in a way. It was then that his squad were finally ready and stepped out of the tent. Now that Banri is finally ready, let's go to the gate, Katsu said cheerfully. Banri glared at Katsu but luckily did not counter, preventing another argument from breaking out. I'll meet up with you in a minute, Kakashi said as he stood up. Katsu nodded in agreement and the three teens walked away. He then turned back to Obito, who had also stood up and was ready to head back to his team. Good luck on patrol, I guess, he said in farewell. Be careful out there, Obito replied, a bit uncomfortable with having had a full conversation with Kakashi devoid of any arguments. Kakashi nodded and walked away feeling lighter. It wasn't much, but it was a step in the right direction. Over the next 2 days, Konoha's forces marched through the forest until the terrain at the Land of Grass transformed into a vast expanse of lush, green grass fields which swayed gently in the breeze. Despite being a small country, the shifting landscapes of the Land of Grass made skirmishes unique. Konoha, true to its name, dominated the forests of the Land of Grass. Meanwhile, Iwa controlled the hilly area closer to their borders and the grass plains stretching across the country's center. A few meters ahead, Kakashi could spot the famed grass gate of Iwa. The fortress stood against the bright blue sky, its stone walls exuding a sense of strength and resilience. The formidable structure was defined by 3 prominent towers, each adorned with brown-tiled roofs that curved upwards. The central gatehouse, flanked by twin towers, served as the main entrance. The gatehouse comprised of 5 slabs of seal-fortified stone that protected the inside, slabs that only select Iwa ninja could open and close using earth ninjutsu keyed to their chakra. This was the second most important outpost Iwa had, the first being the fortress that stood near their borders. In Kakashi's timeline, the grass gate of Iwa fell 2 months before the Shinobi mission. Kakashi wasn't part of the battle, but his sensei was, and he had elevated his notoriety during that battle. After which, the destruction of the Shinobi bridge helped starve the main fortress at the border of supplies until Iwa eventually conceded, leaving the fate of the war between Konoha, Cloud and Mist. In terms of positioning, Iwa had the current advantage. Konoha could only approach through the open field, while the stone ninja situated themselves in front of the fortress a couple of 100 meters back. Kakashi could spot enemy ninja in the towers, ready to provide backup from afar. Moreover, the plains were riddled with traps to prevent a direct assault. If it weren't for these factors, Konoha would have had the advantage on the grassy plains where they could easily set the vegetation on fire and leverage their higher mobility. However, Iwa had established a base here faster than Konoha, which was too busy defending against the Cloud during the beginning of the war. Sarutobi Shigeru, Uchiha Noburo, and Namikaze Minato stood in front of the forces, eyeing the fortress of the stone. Their squads only a few paces behind them while the rest of the forces lined the back. Kakashi was standing alongside the units providing his sensei's squad with backup and could easily hear the 3 skirmish leaders speak. "There is no panic, seems like they expected us," Noburo stated nonchalantly as he observed the fortress where stone ninja were already lining the tower walls, ready to defend. It was one of the scenarios Shikaku-san considered. Minato shrugged, not worried either. It appears that since they didn't hear from Haruki-san, they assumed they were defeated and prepared to defend. "Plan 3 it is then," Shigeru stated. Gaki nodded and signed the order back, allowing the command to trickle down to all the fighters. They didn't want to give anything away to the stone, even if it was something as simple as, "We've planned for this." As they gave time for everyone to receive instruction, Aburame Yuma stepped forward, along with 12 other ninja. "We're ready anytime," he stated calmly. "Even though they were expecting us, I don't see any extra fortifications," Noburo informed the Aburame, peering at the terrain with red eyes. "Doesn't mean there aren't any, so you should still proceed with caution." "Chiaki-san," Yuma gave the silent order. "Byakugan," Chiaki said as she activated her bloodline and scanned the open plains. After a few seconds, she confirmed, "Nothing unusual, Captain." Her voice wavered lightly, the tension of the upcoming battle clearing affecting the young teen. Gaki, who had a soft spot for the younger generation, placed a comforting hand on her shoulder and she smiled back. "Remember, if we spot any of the Jinchuriki were retreating," Shigeru reminded the rest of the ninja, and they all nodded in affirmation. "Otherwise, we have the advantage. Don't forget that," he stated, and looked at Chiaki in particular, who nodded with determination. The Jinchuriki of all nations tended to stay in the village or at border encampments. Still, Iwa had planned to attack Konoha from 2 fronts, from the north with a large army and from the northwest with a surprise attack. Both attacks had failed. The attack on the north failed as the army met with the Cloud instead, resulting in a fight that caused the loss of thousands of Iwa ninja and the death of the Raikage. Meanwhile, the attack on the northwest failed by Minato and Kakashi killing the invaders. As such, Shikaku concluded that the most likely scenario was for Aiwa to have initially stationed the Jinchuriki closer to Konoha to take advantage if their plans had succeeded. With the multiple failures, Shikaku believed that Aiwa had probably withdrawn the Jinchuriki closer to the border once more. The cloud was out for revenge, and they couldn't leave their borders vulnerable. Given that the Raikage's heir had been trained for the position and thus a gap in cloud leadership wasn't an issue, it was very likely that the fourth Raikage would march in revenge. Just as Konoha saw an opportunity to attack, so would the cloud. Still, Shikaku had warned them that should Aiwa be ready for them, there was a chance that a Jinchuriki would be deployed to protect the camp. A fight between the Konoha forces and a Jinchuriki may result in many casualties on Konoha's side, even if they did defeat the Jinchuriki. As such, the plan was to retreat should the Jinchuriki join the fray. Plans to defeat the Jinchuriki existed, but relied heavily on Jiraiya and Orochimaru, alongside Minato and Kushina. Currently, only Minato was present. Orochimaru was guarding the north border and Jiraiya was conducting espionage. There was no time to call them to the battle in time before the window of opportunity closed. Time to go for it, Shigeru announced. Units 5.1 and 5.2, ready. Under the guidance of Shikaku Nara, Konoha had employed key squad and backup squad tactics for this mission. Each key unit would have a backup unit serving to protect the key unit and prevent the stone from delaying them from their objectives. In this case, Unit 5.1 was Aburame Yuma's team of 3 squads, tasked with dismantling the traps. The job of Unit 5.2 was to defend against enemy attacks while the traps were being dismantled. For the first part of his role, Kakashi was in Unit 2.2, the backup squad of Namikaze Minato. Depending on the role, the unit could be any number of squads. Minato's unit was a team of 4, but their backup was 2 squads, plus Kakashi as a solo addition. Ready, Yuma stated. You've got nothing to worry about, Yuma-san, Sarutobi Nico, leader of Unit 5.2 proclaimed with a smile and raised fist. We've got your back, do your thing. Let's go kill some Aiwa ninja. Shigeru unleashed his killing intent as he raised his palm in the air and motioned forward, signaling the start of the raid. As the Konoha ninja raced forward, the stone ninja threw an explosive tag into the air, alerting all their units that Konoha had forged forward. As Units 5.1 and 5.2 made their way across the plains, Kakashi saw 10 Aiwa squads rushing to meet them. Based on their zigzag pattern, they were avoiding the traps close to the tower. The two sides were still some distance from clashing. That said, Konoha wasn't going to wait for a clash to begin attacking. 3 ninja from Yuma's team jumped into the air, hands weaving the signs for fire jutsu. Some of the stone ninja paused in their approach to counter with their own jutsu. Great fireball! The Uchiha of the 3 shouted. The others joined with weaker, but nonetheless powerful fire jutsu, fire spiral jutsu. The fire raced downwards towards the ground. Earth bullet jutsu, some of the stone ninja called out a beat later, aiming at the ninja vulnerable in the air. The small sharp spears of stone aimed at the airborne ninja were blocked by Unit 5.2, using a strong wind jutsu that forced the sharp earth spears to stop mid-flight and fall to the ground. At the same time, another set of ninja called out a different jutsu, mud veil jutsu. The fire jutsu Konoha aimed at the ground was met with a wall of mud, an attempt to prevent the fire from activating the traps hidden underneath. Fortunately, experience allowed Konoha to anticipate this. As the mud blocked the fire jutsu, one of Yuma's squads released a barrage of explosive kunai towards the ground below the veil. Within seconds of meeting their mark, a large explosion shook the earth. The chief explosion triggered other traps to activate, creating a chain of smaller explosions across the battlefield. The force created strong winds that battered the forces on standby of both sides. By the time the winds subsided, the first combatants were already engaged in clashes. The ground was upturned, and massive craters littered the area where explosives had been located. Kakashi also saw dismantled sharp objects lay useless on the ground, clearly from traps meant to unleash weapons when triggered. Kakashi saw that Yuma's teams were fanning out to try to dismantle more traps on the sides. Aiwa's squads were now rushing into battle. With the main traps gone, there was no need to stand back. Frontal units, engage. Remember to keep alert to traps on the sides. Shigeru yelled out in a booming voice. Kakashi rushed out with his unit immediately. The sounds of clashing could be heard all around as the fighting started. It took Kakashi back to his younger years of fighting on the battlefield. His darkest days were those in Anbu, yet it was on the battlefield that he lost his innocence. As the blood on his hands continued to increase, he simultaneously closed off his heart more and more. It was easier that way. Now, here was again, poised to strike down lives amidst the clang of metal, boom of explosions and cries of ninja all around him. As planned, Minato and his squad joined the rest of the special tactics teams to dismantle the defenses of the Stone Ninja. Nara Shikaku had paired his sensei with Uchiha Jiren, Sarutobi Kaharu and Inuzuka Maki. Kakashi had never fought alongside any of these ninja, thus wasn't sure how they complemented his sensei's fighting style. That didn't matter however, his task was to follow them undetected, wait for Go to make an appearance, and strike at the first opening the squad would create for him. Hiding within the Konoha forces, Kakashi made sure to not bring any attention to himself as he observed the battle. Minato's squad ran towards a group of stone ninja standing defensively at the front lines while Kakashi remained with the secondary squad providing backup. The stone ninja saw them coming and created a wall of rock to defend against the incoming squads. Kakashi saw his sensei signal with his hands to call out a strategy. Without hesitation, Sarutobi Kaharu acted, Water Dragon Jutsu, she called out. The water dragon charged ahead, targeting the base of the wall and flooding it. Before the dragon hit the wall, Uchiha Jiren was already following up with the Great Fireball technique. The sudden heat after the water softened the wall, weakening the front face and creating cracks in the structure. At that point, Kakashi saw Inuzuka Maki and her dog companion use Wolf Fang over Fang. Two spinning columns assaulted the wall at the opposite ends. The force of the jutsu against the cracking wall was more than the stone could handle and the wall shattered. As the defensive wall fell, the stone ninja were ready, releasing multiple earth bombs forcing the Konoha squad to dodge and halt their attack. Meanwhile, Inuzuka Maki, who had released the technique and was poised to attack in midair, released a flurry of kunai at the ninja from above. The stone ninja immediately rushed to block the kunai with their own. Unfortunately for the stone ninja, the kunai were marked with the flying Raijin. In a blink of an eye, Minato was already behind the enemy lines, kunai slashing at the ninja. Despite their attempts to block, Minato simply teleported to another kunai and attacked from their blind spots. By the time Inuzuka Maki landed, the stone ninja were dead. Who's next? Maki whooped in victory. Kakashi noticed his sensei frown at the cavalier attitude but shifted his attention forward, where Jiren and Kaharu were already engaging the next unit. Having trusted Minato and Maki to deal with the first squad, Uchiha Jiren made the autonomous decision to forge ahead and signaled to Minato and Maki their next attack. Don't you dare get, Konoha scum! A ninja yelled as he threw explosive tags at the incoming Konoha ninja. Clearly, he had heard Maki's comment. A poof of smoke appeared next to Kaharu, revealing a large shuriken. Shuriken Shadow Clone, Kaharu retaliated with one of the third Hokage's signature jutsu. The large shuriken multiplied and blocked the explosive kunai. The range of the shuriken was larger than the explosion, and a few shuriken continued forward towards the stone ninja. Nice one, Kaharu-chan. Maki cheered. Focus Maki-san, Minato ordered sternly as he and Maki joined Jiren and Kaharu's attack. Earth style, mud wall, an enemy called out as he spat mud onto the ground, which rose to create a solid wall of earth and block the shuriken. Minato signaled for a change of tactics as the mud wall rose. Rain of Fire Jutsu, Uchiha Jiren yelled out in response to Minato's command. A ball of fire shot above the mud wall. The stone ninja were familiar with the technique and knew that the ball of fire would disperse into smaller bullets that rained down on them. As such, they had erected an earth shield above their heads. What they didn't anticipate was for Kaharu to follow up with a water bomb. As the ball of fire began to split into smaller fires, the water collided with the bullets and enveloped the enemy in a cloud of heated mist. As the enemy ninja yelped in pain at the unexpected tactic, his sensei attacked the wall with a spiraling Rasengan, destroying their fortifications. Uchiha Jiren ran through the hole Minato created, Sharingan blazing, heat armor flickering and attacked the enemy through the mist. While Kakashi couldn't see Jiren, he could hear as the man raised through the stone ninja with his superior visibility. Some stone ninja had escaped the mist from the left side, but Maki was already there. Crouched on all fours, the Inuzuka attacked with ruthless speed before they could get their bearings, a smile on his face as he disposed of the enemy. Recognizing the squad as a serious threat that was quickly cutting a hole through their defenses, one of the enemy commanders gave out new orders: fall back and regroup. Do not engage directly. The order was quickly followed, and the enemy retreated. A few stayed back to set up a new defensive line along the retreat path to slow Konoha's advance. Earth flow spears. Multiple enemies shouted. The earth rumbled and shook as multiple sharp earth pillars rose from the ground, sharp ends pointing towards the Konoha ninja in attempt to skewer them. This was followed up with the earth-style rampart jutsu. A large wall rose from beneath the feet of the stone ninja behind the pillars, allowing them to gain a height advantage and loom over the Konoha ninja. At the same time, backup squads from the stone ninja were sent to join the fray. Incoming reinforcements, Minato announced to the team as they skidded to a halt: backup unit, intercept. Despite the action in front of him, Minato was still aware of the large wave of enemy making their way towards them. The backup squad ran to meet the reinforcements head-on to keep them away from Minato's unit as his sensei's squad moved straight ahead to tackle the giant obstacle now in front of them. Minato's backup squad was one of the largest, yet they were still outnumbered by the stone ninja. Unlike the initial assault, the clash of reinforcements was favoring the stone ninja, who were being supported by attacks from their comrades atop the rampart. Knowing he couldn't engage directly, Kakashi reminded himself that his role was currently confined to throwing kunai and shuriken to annoy the stone reinforcements and provide his teammates a few precious extra seconds to avoid attacks. In a matter of moments after the reinforcement units began to fight, Kakashi saw a Konoha Kenjutsu specialist fall and resisted the urge to rush in and help. He had to stay between the Konoha squads, providing minor support to the secondary unit yet maintaining a close distance to his sensei's team. As such, he was mostly ignored as the battle around him raged. Minato and his team were maneuvering the pillars as they made their way higher to engage the enemy. The stone ninja delayed their advance by unleashing weapons and stone spikes at the unit. Earth Mausoleum Dumpling. The stone ninja continued their attack. Although the leaf ninja couldn't see what was happening, but Kakashi knew the effects of the jutsu being called out. He wasn't sure if Minato and his team knew of the jutsu. Most likely, the ninja were aware as they had fought multiple skirmishes with Iwa, yet Kakashi didn't want to leave it to chance. A large lump of earth is about to be thrown at you, he yelled out. On cue, a huge ball of earth was hurled downwards at the Konoha ninja, attempting to flatten them. While the jutsu was only B ranked, it was clear the attack was a combined one, as the size of the lump of earth was 3 times its usual size. Keep going. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Minato called out and a clone popped into existence. Big Ball Rasengan. Both versions of Minato formed a large Rasengan in their hands. The Rasengans collided with the earth. For a few seconds, both jutsu fought against one another. However, the Rasengan was superior, and the earth lump shattered into smaller bits. Minato's team slowed down, carefully maneuvering to avoid the chunks of earth and block kunai and shuriken raining down. The Konoha ninja were more than halfway up the rampart and the stone ninja cursed. Earth Flow River Jutsu. A few yelled, transforming the pillars. Jiren and Maki were running on top of into a mud river. The two ninja easily avoided the attack by jumping upwards, but the enemy had followed up with some exploding kunai. In an instant, the two Konoha ninja disappeared. Minato had marked them before the battle, and he easily flashed towards them, grabbing them and teleporting them back to his position, where he had stuck a flying Raijin kunai into the pillar. While the enemy were focused on the 3 male combatants, Kaharu had made it to the top from the far right side of the rampant. Fire Element, Fire Dragon Flame Missile. Her main element was clearly water, but she was still a Sarutobi and her fire jutsu packed a punch. The fire missile roared as it swept in parallel to the rampart's edge, forcing the stone ninja to jump back and finally allowing Minato and his team to reach the top uninhibited. Good work, Kaharu-san, Minato acknowledged. Let's go get them. Jiren gave Kaharu a respectful nod and she smiled at the praise. Kakashi crouched on one of the high pillars which allowed him visibility on both his sensei and the backup team. By the time Minato's squad had made it to the top, Kakashi noted that the backup unit had become overwhelmed by the reinforcement forces and cursed when he noticed that more Konoha ninja had fallen. Fortunately, Shigeru had noticed and appeared to have ordered more units to provide backup. Kakashi saw a few Konoha squads jump into the fray, allowing for a more even skirmish to unfold. Regardless, with the backup team fully engaged, Minato's squad was now on its own. This fact didn't deter his sensei. Third tactic, he ordered the squad. At the command, both Jiren and Koharu unleashed the signature Grand Fireball Jutsu at the enemy. The two large balls of fire kept the enemy busy. Maki focused on picking off any enemy that was too slow to avoid the attack. He seemed to relish in his role as the sweeper. Kakashi didn't want to know what the man had gone through to develop such a visible bloodlust. His sensei took the opportunity to throw a flying Raijin kunai high above the enemy. He flashed into the air and unleashed a barrage of marked kunai, weapon control, twin rising dragon. Kunai littered the immediate battlefield and Kakashi saw panic overtake the stone ninja. Retreat! Retreat! The commander called out. It was a moot command as the stone ninja had already started trying to run away, to no avail. Nothing could be seen of Minato except a flash of blonde hair as he flickered across the rampart, killing numerous enemies in an instant, including the enemy commander. Jiren, Koharu and Maki remained on standby but kept out of the way and allowed Minato to decimate the enemy by himself. As his sensei moved in to kill the few remaining enemy ninja in the area, Minato's kunai was stopped by a person's flat open palm. The Iowa ninja who almost died nearly passed out in fear and continued to retreat, even as a reinforcement squad joined the fray. That's enough, Konoha's yellow flash, was the greeting given as Minato teleported back next to his squad and they regrouped to take on the new challenge. Go Ogata had finally made an appearance. Enough. We're just getting started, Jiren replied, the trademark Uchiha smirk gracing his face. This time I won't give you the chance to retreat, Go Ogata. Minato's squad's job was to forge forward faster than any other unit to ensure they were identified as the key threat and that Go was deployed against them. Shikaku's plan had worked. Don't flatter yourself, Go snorted at the Uchiha's words as more Iwa joined his side. I don't care about you. You're just another Konoha insect. I'm here for you, Namikaze-san. I don't care who is sent my way, we're moving ahead, Minato replied seriously. Minato's team was uninjured but glad for the moment to catch their breaths as the two sides assessed one another, the tension palpable. Go was accompanied by two other units. The battle was 12 against 4. Moreover, Go wasn't the only formidable Iowa ninja that the Konoha team had to contend with. From his hiding place, Kakashi identified two more A-ranked ninja, more troublesome of which was Chisaka Masaru, a user of lava style. The other, Kido Sho, Kakashi recalled, was a ninjutsu user with the wind element. Each of the A-ranked ninja was supported by 3 other ninja. Though the odds were unfavorable, Kakashi was still relieved, no Jinchuriki. If a Jinchuriki was here they would have come out by now, seems Konoha is in the clear to continue this assault, he thought. I'd like to see you try, Sho smirked, raising his hands to the sides to highlight their larger numbers. Oh, we'll try Iowa trash, Maki jeered, it's quality over quantity that wins the fight. Too bad this is where I'll end you, Masaru growled, volcanic ash. A black cloud of smog was blown in the direction of the squad. Wind release. Great breakthrough. Minato countered, pushing the smog back with strong winds. I'll take on Sho, you two take Masaru, Jiren commanded as Minato blocked the attack. Gladly, Maki smirked while Koharu nodded hesitantly. Kakashi wasn't surprised that the Inuzuka wanted to fight the most emotional of the 3 ninja. Kakashi just knew that their fight would devolve into a cacophony of insults and jeers. He felt a bit bad for Koharu. A bit of taunting was well and good, but too much backbiting was a pain in the heat of battle. Water gunshot. Koharu followed up quickly and launched a large bullet of water in the middle of the Iowa ninja, causing Go to dodge one way, and Masaru and Sho another. As instructed by Jiren, the team split up and faced their opponents. Kakashi approved the division. Jiren's fire would cause Sho trouble as wind was weak to fire. Meanwhile, Koharu's water jutsu was a good counter to lava style. Still, the large area damage of the lava style would make it hard to get close, which is where Maki would come in as support. Not to mention that Jiren and Minato were stronger and better equipped to handle 4-to-1 odds. Iowa was not going to stand idly by and let Konoha dictate the matchups. Wind release. Pressure damage. Shu attacked before the Konoha ninja could converge on their position. A tornado-like mass erupted in the center, pushing the combatants and most of Minato's kunai away. Kakashi frowned as his sensei's kunai blew away from the rampant and fell below, scattering across the pillars. The Iwa ninja stood taller after that, but Konoha's ninja weren't worried. They took Iwa's momentary pause to appreciate countering Minato to force them into their preferred matchups after all. Kakashi focused his attention on his sensei's battle as the fighting began. His target was only Go. Earth Wall Jutsu. Two of Go's teammates create 3 walls that barricaded Minato by himself in an attempt to limit his movements. The only opening was the drop behind Minato that he had scaled to reach the top of the rampart. Once the walls were erected, Go and his 4th teammate rushed in with a flurry of taijutsu, keeping Minato preoccupied. If Go was attacking by himself, Minato would have found a chance to release another barrage of flying Raijin in the confined space. As it was, having 2 taijutsu specialists working in tandem with the support of earth ninjutsu users who would launch ninjutsu when provided with an opening made it hard to throw kunai around. However, Minato's strength wasn't solely built on the flying Raijin. He had mastered the art of hit-and-run tactics. Even as the Iwa squad tried to overwhelm Minato, they failed to land an attack on his sensei, who blocked and dodged with a grace not many ninja were able to achieve. Earth Dragon Bullets. One of the enemies shouted, launching an attack. The head of a dragon emerged from the ground, and from its mouth a torrent of mud rushed towards Minato. Unbeknownst to the ninja, Minato had seen him form the hand seals from his peripheral and had positioned Go and the other taijutsu user between him and the incoming jutsu. Go easily dodged the attack, but his teammate stumbled briefly as the ground below him shifted at the unexpected friendly fire. Minato took advantage of the brief distraction to spin and deliver a devastating kick that sent the man crashing into one of the earth walls. This allowed Minato a moment to throw a kunai at the wall behind him. The earth ninjutsu users called out to one another. Earth and stone bamboo shoot. 4 condensed pillars of stone and rock, thinner and deadlier than the area version of the jutsu, converged at the kunai to skewer Minato once he teleported. Instead, Minato used it as a feint, dodging Go's flying roundhouse kick and closing in with a burst of speed on the taijutsu user who was regaining his footing. Before the man could properly form a defense, Minato slashed with deadly accuracy. The man fell with a thud, no longer moving. The earth ninjutsu users cursed while Go grimaced, frustration evident in his eyes. Minato took the opportunity to taunt his opponent. How long can you delay me by yourself, Iron Guardian? Minato asked. Kakashi raised an eyebrow at the uncharacteristic behavior. His sensei had displayed a calm demeanor so far, however his sensei rarely taunted in battle. Determined statements sure, but not taunts. Minato clearly wanted to rattle the enemy and end the battle as soon as possible. Kakashi worried that his sensei felt rushed by the urgency of his role. No matter how strong Minato was, Kakashi knew that his sensei was still young and the fate of the battle resting on his shoulders could be stressing him out. I must take the first chance I get. The sooner I help sensei, the less worried sensei will be, Kakashi thought. I'm not alone, Go replied confidently and rushed to attack, not wanting to give Minato room to attack his other comrades. Kakashi knew that Go was probably also feeling the pressure to try and stop the yellow flash, and the confidence he displayed was an attempt to boost his own morale. As the fight became harder for the stone ninja, Kakashi used the opportunity to sneak closer, hiding behind the corner of a wall where a pillar had conveniently provided cover. Kakashi only needed to duck under the pillar to join the fray. It was the perfect position to launch a surprise attack. To inform his sensei of his location, Kakashi waited until his sensei and Go had jumped away from one another. His sensei used the reprieve to throw an exploding kunai towards one of the ninjutsu users. It was in that moment that Kakashi took the marked kunai his sensei had given him prior to the battle, and threw it into the pillar, away from the eyes of Go and his teammates. The throw would signal to Minato the activation of the marker, alerting his sensei of his location. With Go a few meters away, Kakashi made sure that the activation did not distract his sensei. His sensei made no visible sign to having noticed the marker, but Kakashi trusted that his sensei got the message. Go was already running towards his sensei again, even as the ninjutsu users countered the exploding kunai. Instead of engaging with Go, Minato teleported on top of the bamboo shoot jutsu where his kunai still lay and threw a wind-infused kunai at one of the ninjutsu users. The man had just recovered from the exploding kunai and did not see the attack coming. The kunai forcibly stabbed him in the side and threw him off the wall. While the other ninjutsu user shouted in dismay, Go did not let the loss of another teammate delay his attack and he was on top of Minato once more. As they traded taijutsu blows, Go appeared to have increased the forcefulness of his attacks. Conversely, the ninjutsu user appeared to have lost confidence in the value of his support. Minato had turned all their jutsu against them, and now two of his teammates lay dead. As the taijutsu battle continued, Minato secretly guided Go until the man's back was to Kakashi. Minato blocked a punch from Go using his left hand and created the spiraling jutsu with his right. Rasengan. His sensei attacked. Go was unconcerned and simply hardened his body, bring his hands in a cross in front of his chest to prevent the Rasengan from doing any damage. As the Rasengan failed to injure the man, Go smirked. Your jutsu is useless against me. The man mocked his sensei as the only outcome of the jutsu was to push the man back a few steps. The ninjutsu user regained a spine at the display and grabbed a kunai wanting to support Go, but Kakashi was quicker. Without a moment of hesitation, Kakashi ducked under the pillar, hand charged with lightning, and rushed in close from Go's blindside. The ninjutsu user shouted a warning and tried to change course by throwing the kunai at Kakashi instead. His panic and imbalance made him miscalculate the trajectory vis-a-vis Kakashi's speed. The enemy kunai landed aimlessly behind Kakashi. Kakashi thrust his hand forward. Go shifted his body to the side. A grunt of pain. The smell of burnt flesh filled Kakashi's nostrils as blood splattered.